All right. Well, what is up again? Keith Jameson, go back here, guy 231 across the DFS industry. It's Sunday, which means we have the Sunday night preview of what I think, trying to think about what the week one was. This has to be like the premier Sunday night football game we've had this season. We got Tom Brady, Mr. Patriot, going back to Gillette, going back to New England to face Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Should be awesome. I mean, the storylines are galore. I saw people betting on will Tom Brady and Bill Belichick shake hands? Will they hug? Will they ignore each other completely? Like, it's just going to be awesome. And I'm a Buccaneer fan. I'm here in Tampa Bay. So I'm looking forward to this. But on top of just what's going to be an awesome game to watch, we can obviously have great fun playing DFS on it. So I'm here to break down what I think of some top plays, give you kind of a core to build around. Obviously, I'm looking more from an optimal lens. The thing about Showdown GPP strategy is you just have to start looking at like what all the leverages are and what people don't think is going to have happen and do the opposite, right? Or what people think is going to have happen, do the opposite. So on this one, more people, like everybody's going to play Brady. I think that most likely they're going to be pairing him up with Godwin, running it back with Mac Jones because the Buccaneers, are struggling to defend the air and are the best team versus the run game, right? So it's kind of obvious the dictation of like what's going to happen. So how do you switch that up, right? Maybe you fade Brady, pay Pat Stees, something like that. But I'm not going to be going into that. That's a little crazy for me. I'm not going to be winning the millionaire tonight. I'm going to be trying to grind cash games and make it a good night. So just a quick reminder, like, subscribe, comment. All right, let's jump into the game and the plays. So Buccaneers are about a touchdown favorite right now, in between like 6 to 7, depending on your book. Probably going to close right at 6.5, which is sneaky, right? Because that means it feels like the books almost want you to bet the Bucs. So, all right, let's jump into it though. Tom Brady at 12-8, I think in cash games is just a must. Right now, he's quarterback 2 in season-long fantasy. He is averaging 31.5 DK a game. The Bucs are not running the ball well at all. Ronald Jones cannot not fumble. Gio Bernard is out, who's not a runner anyways, but he's the third down back. And Fournette's not looking like the Fournette we saw at the end of the last season. It's probably looking more like the Fournette that Jacksonville cut, right? And then New England's pretty good against the run too. So it's going to be a struggle for the Bucs to run the ball, which means it's going to be Brady throwing the ball 30, 40 times yet again. So to me, lock and load him in cash. It's only a GPP fade for ownership. Like that's the only reason you'd fade him. And likely his top target is going to be Chris Godwin. New England has struggled from the slot. They've been pretty decent to the outside guys. The slot is where to attack them. And the Bucs just love Chris Godwin. Like Chris Godwin is Julian Edelman for Tom Brady here in Tampa Bay. They don't mind running the ball. We saw him run for a touchdown last week. They're going to target him a ton, short A-dot throws, but he also runs a really nice seam route. He's a freak athlete too. So, Chris Godwin's elite, but all of a sudden you take these two, right? 26,000 of my cap is gone. I only get 50K. We got 2. And now we go, all right, the Bucs. And so I think Mike Evans will be so much less owned than Godwin. So he makes a really good GPP pivot too. If you just want to do small pivots, but in cash, I don't think Evans is the play. We've seen him struggling to get targets too. Obviously he's gotten some tough matchups, but I think I'm much more Godwin over Evans. Again, optimal in cash sense. Then Mac Jones, despite his struggles, I think Mac Jones, we saw versus New Orleans, 51 attempts, right? So the New England understands right now that running the ball is not their forte. And versus the Bucs, New England's not going to be able to run the ball either. So I think Mac Jones, despite him not being like putting up like huge numbers that you want, right? Nothing on this DK log is going crazy. This could be a spot that, it becomes the Mac Jones game for those Patriot fans, right? The game that Mac Jones defeats Tom Brady for a narrative lover. And he might have to throw the ball 50 times. I mean, it's not like he's not throwing the ball very much to start with, 39, 30, and 51. It's because freaking Damian Harris, has been a liability when he's been out there. Everybody had high hopes for Damian Harris going into the season. And from what I've read, they can't trust him to pass block. So you all of a sudden lose a dimension with Belichick and he sits your butt down or he gives you a lot less snaps. And then without James White's injured, we're going to go down to a couple of value plays, but there's 2 really good value plays of pass catchers. So yeah, I think Mac Jones to me in a cash situation, just given everything that's going to happen, it should be New England having to pass the ball a ton. So Mac Jones to me, like this is like the first 3 clicks. Now I'm really struggling with salary, but there are some supreme values. I want to talk about my other favorite play up in this top end is Jacoby Myers. Much like the Patriots struggle out of the slot, the Bucs struggle out of the slot too. The Bucs really struggle out of the slot. Cooper Kupp is still catching passes. CeeDee Lamb felt like he could have had, 10, 15 catches versus the Bucs week 1. Trying to think of who week 2 was. Atlanta. I mean, Gage even was getting open, but Atlanta was just not very good. Jacoby Myers had 14 targets last game, 9 targets week 1, 6 targets week 2. Week 2 probably only wasn't close to 9, 10 targets because the Patriots were up so big on the Jets. So he's obviously Mac Jones' favorite target. He's only 8,400. I think actually makes a really, really good captain choice too. Like just to save money, doing like Jacoby Myers or Mac Jones makes a ton of sense. So here's my 4 that I'm building around. Now, obviously, depending on what you want to do from here and depending on how you do your cap, you don't have much left over, right? So like, you go Mac Jones cap, all of a sudden you only have 1,750. But good news is there's stuff down there. We will go. I'm trying to think how I want to do it. Let's go down there and then I'll kind of talk about the mid-tier guys and then we'll get out of here. Short preview. You don't need an hour and a half. Don't go watch those videos for an hour and a half of this stuff. I mean, they probably have good GPP leverage, but if you just want to kind of know who to play, like I got you covered in a short amount of time, I think. A couple of players down here. So Tyler Johnson's getting a little bit of snap work right now. Actually, just never mind. Let me take that back. Antonio Brown's back. So Tyler Johnson to me is just very, very fringe. JJ Taylor sets up as very much like a James White type. He and Brandon Bolden were playing the third down back. JJ Taylor is a lot more explosive than Bolden, who's like mostly a special teamer, always in the past. He's like their Matthew Slater. He's just been there forever. So JJ Taylor is somebody in team preseason that we like a lot. We do Zach, I can remember recording him a lot. Ramondre Stevenson too from New England was there too, as well, but I think he's more the running back. Receiving wise, it's going to be Taylor and possibly Bolden. I think Taylor sets up to have a lot more upside and more of a dynamic player than Bolden does. So I think JJ Taylor at 1,200. And look, here's the thing down here. If you're getting worried, like, oh, I'm going to pick the wrong one between Taylor or Bolden, you could play both. Secondly, though, we're not talking about having, I'm trying to think the right way to say it. We're not talking about like a $6,000 player that if you make the wrong decision and he only gets one catch, you're screwed. We're talking about 1,200. And then in the case of Bolden, 600. All right. So realistically for value, that's a whole other conversation that, if a guy's chalk down there, I think that you need more than just like value, but we only are talking get like 2-3 catches here and you're kind of paid off. So, Taylor had 2 targets last week. Bolden had 4. Okay. Bolden played most. Bolden led the team, the running backs in snaps. So, I'm going to be scouring through as things come out more and more. I don't expect Bill Belichick to tip his hand and tell us which one, but both Bolden and JJ Taylor are going to get work in the passing game. We know that Mac Jones likes to dump down. He's not going to sit back in the pocket and wait 3-4 seconds and get destroyed. It's going to get out of his hands quick. It's going to get out of his hands to Jacoby Myers and these running backs. And potentially, I'm going to go over here in a minute. I really like the tight ends as well. So, all right, there's your values. One of those guys down there, Stevenson, if you want to be cheeky, but I think you're really trying to draw at that point to like a rushing touchdown. Just make sure nobody else done. N'Keal Harry. That's so sad. All right. Okay. Nothing else down here. So let's just go kind of the guys I skipped over. Leonard Fournette, 100% in play, especially without Gio Bernard. I think he's going to get third down work. Leonard Fournette, to me, just might be every down back at this point for the Bucs. So I really like him as kind of like a cheeky way and a Bucs stack to maybe go like Brady, Godwin, Fournette. Depending if you think that Mac Jones can struggle, you can play Bucs D. Cam Brate, I'm going to go over here in a minute. So I think that's a really good way to stack the Bucs, even though it's kind of counterintuitive that, you normally don't want to like do running back, quarterback, and wide receiver. You kind of want to pick one way or another. Leonard Fournette's going to be so involved in the passing attack. I mean, you can see the targets alone, 3, 4, and 7, especially when the game gets open. He gets a lot of targets, especially now without Gio Bernard. I think that role is really locked up for Leonard Fournette. So I really like Fournette, 7,600. I just like those other 4 more, but as I'm playing a couple of GPPs, I'm definitely going to be sprinkling in Fournette. And you know what? I might change my decision by lock, and maybe it's Fournette over Myers or something like that. Or maybe if you don't want to spend all the way up to Chris Godwin, spend the 11-2, Fournette to me would be a great way to drop down. He'd be my second favorite Bucs skilled player. Antonio Brown, I think obviously is very interesting too. He has definitely hashtag revenge narrative versus the Patriots, who he was there for 1 game, 2 games. So, and he missed last week for COVID, assuming that he's recovered, that could be a really, really good play as well. There's Damian Harris. I don't think he's in play here. Just losing the snaps, and then the Bucs are great run defense. So to me, you just fade. Bucs D 6,600 to me is way too much, especially with all the injuries. I don't really see it. But again, GPP, Mac Jones is going to throw the ball 50 times. He had 3 picks last week. One of those goes for pick 6, and you're golden. So there's that. Let's just scroll down here. Aguilar is going to be on the outside. Probably will get Carlton Davis. So I think that's a pass. Bourne is fine. Obviously, that's the 3 receivers is Myers, Bourne, and Aguilar. So I think Bourne, I think he's in play for sure. Just, I would say more GPP. Hunter Henry is who I want to talk about. Jonnu Smith had some drops and just overall wasn't that great last week for them. So Hunter Henry, we know back to Arkansas, Hunter Henry, really, really talented. I think he was a first or a second round pick for the Chargers. Really, really talented receiver. Has 10 targets the last 2 weeks, 13 total. To me, again, when I'm thinking about like the game script, Mac Jones getting the ball out of his hand quickly, tight end is another position, right? We get backs, tight end, slot receivers, all those low 8-out throws. So I think Hunter Henry to me at 4,600 is a really, really nice play. If I'm in this range, he and Cam Brate are going to be tough. Cam Brate should immediately come in and take over for Gronk. When Gronk went out, Cam Brate took a majority of the snaps. Tom Brady loves Cam Brate. Cam Brate's athletic, tight end. Yes, OJ Howard is a former first-round pick, but Cam Brate is who everybody here in Tampa Bay, we know you trust Cam Brate. So I think at 4,200, he's very, very safe too. We know Brady likes to tight end as well. So I'm a fan of Cam Brate as well in that range. I'd prefer both of those to Jonnu Smith. Again, though, GPP, if I'm here saying this, that probably means a lot of other people are the same way. So maybe Jonnu goes under owned. And then, of course, you got your kickers here. But there's so many other ways to go. I don't necessarily haven't seen in my build so far being a kicker slate at all. All right. This will be fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the preview. Hope you all have some great lineups tonight. If you do enjoy this, remember, like, subscribe, comment. It all really does help us here at FSI continue to grow this channel. Thank you all for watching. With that, I'll say, see you.